Hi everyone, in this video we're going to take you through a morphing project, and I'm going to give you a little warning right off the top. This didn't quite work out as great as I wanted it to, but that's okay. There's a lot of good lessons to be learned, so we're going to go through it anyway. Why not? Okay, so we're going to start off with as a standard stock 3D model. This one is called Michael 4 by Daz 3D, and I think a lot of you people out there might be familiar with this stuff. Anyway, we're starting off with them as a basic male model, and what we're doing is here we took this picker tool and we decided to choose by material, and every little polygon we click on selects all of the same polygons of the same material, and as you can also notice it's highlighting them, the actual materials in the manager as well, but that's not too important. So we're going through and getting all these body materials selected because we want to actually create a display group for these so we can hide them out of the way, because we're going to just focus on the head for this tutorial. So here we are, just doing a little more using that picker tool, grabbing those toenail materials and zooming out. Now this is what we're going to do. We're going to go into layers, all polygons, and now we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to call this one, what are we going to call it? What are we going to call it? Body. Whoa. Okay, now we're going to click this icon here, once to lock it, twice to hide it. Now we don't have to worry about those polygons for the rest of this project. Now we're going to zoom in towards the head, and there's still a few other things we have to deal with because this is a complex model. It has a lot of internal geometry and so on and so forth. So we're going to sort of create another display group for those and hide them as well. See this thing up here? That is this transparent eyebrow layer, and that often confuses people when they first import a model like this because that'll kind of show up on top of everything else, and if you don't know what it is, it might confuse you. So we're going to hide it away from now, but just know that that is in there by design, and that's meant to have this transparency map on it for the eyebrows so they kind of stand on top of the skin. So for now, we're just going to we're going to hide that away with everything else. We're going to create this new layer. We're going to call this a head. Oh, okay, I see what we did. We selected all the stuff we want to show, and what's going to be remaining is the stuff we're going to hide. So let's just back that up just a second here just to clarify. So here we are. We selected, okay, we're selecting all of these materials, like the main skin materials, and I think there's like the nostril material in there as well. We're selecting all these, and then we're creating this head, the head skin display group. Now let's go back ahead to that. There we go. And we created this head skin. Now we're going to hide that for now just to get at whatever is left over. So here, whatever is left over, we can just hit Control A at any time. There it is. That's for select all. You can also get that through the edit menu. Edit, select all, but Control A is much easier. So now we are going to create a new layer, and we're going to call this internal face geometry. I'm going to say OK, and again we're going to go and lock and then hide that one, and then unlock or unhide rather the skin material, or the skin display group. Now, here we go. We're ready to go. This is the part we just want to focus on for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this a sort of cartoony morph of this sort of macho superhero cartoon character. And as I warned you before, it doesn't look the greatest. Didn't quite come out the way I wanted, but that's okay. You know, what are you going to do? It's a quick tutorial for me to show you here. Now what I'm doing here is this is the standard trick where you use the culling and using none, so you can go straight through. And actually, let me pause this video here for a moment and let me show you what's going on now. Because of when I was dealing with these display groups, it's more convenient to use polygon selections, and because those things are inherently polygon based. So, but normally what we want to do is we want to use vertex selections for morphing. We can use polygons as well. It'll basically do the same thing, but it's just a little more intuitive. As you can see here, the polygon selection is, you can see each individual polygon sort of shaded differently, and while with the vertex selection, it's shaded by vertex, and it looks a little smoother, and this is more intuitive for what we're going to do. There are subtle differences between polygon selections and vertex selections. There's special cases where you need to know what you're doing, but a lot of times you don't. A lot of times they just behave the same. So anyway, what we did is here, we took that move tool after selecting this whole chin, and we dragged it down because we want to give one of these big protruding chins. And now we're just going to we're going to deal with the head a bit, because I had this reference photo of a cartoon character, but I'm sure there's some sort of copyright associated with it, so I'm not actually showing it in this tutorial, but I'm just looking at it as I do, and I'm getting something roughly the same. And as I mentioned before, it didn't quite turn out the way I like it, but that's okay. All right, please don't hold it against me. And here we go. So I just selected the whole head, and again I'm using that none culling, so I'm going straight through and getting anything in between. And I had symmetry on just in case anyway. So, and then I'm scaling the whole head, because these big cartoon brutes tend to have big chins and small heads. It's just the way they're illustrated. They're probably saying something about their personality, not much brains and big chin to knock on, but anyway, there it is. So, and also the ear, going to make it a little smaller and cuter, because these big tough guys have cute little ears. Now, okay, so, and again, as you notice there, I'm just going to show just, there's going to be a lot of repetition in these videos, by the way, because there's certain points that just come up a lot, and repetition is the mother of skill. So again, this whole using the culling for none deliberately to go straight through, as you notice here, we went straight through and got all the ears as well. Now, if you had have just had symmetry on and just say per vertex or smart culling, then there might have been stuff inside that ear or behind the ear. There's no angle that I can show you at this moment that would not get selected, and it would, if you did try to scale the whole ear, they would kind of get bent out of shape. So that is why we use this none from the side view to go straight through and get all the little nooks and crannies in between. Okay, please apologize for repetition as I repeat. Okay, here we go. Now I'm taking those ears and I'm going to sort of squeeze them in a bit, and generally this is the same workflow you're probably getting used to seeing. You select, you use a hammer. See these hammers down here? These all work on the selection, so you have to select first and then you deform that whole selection. Well, with the chisels up here, they're quite the opposite. These are more like paintbrushes or something, where essentially if there's nothing selected and you use a chisel, it'll work on anything, right? But if there is a selection, which I'm going to show you later, and you use the chisel, it'll only affect the selected areas. So think of that selection as like a stencil when it comes to these chisels. But anyway, so as you see here, I just sort of, like I did a few of these use the hammers on the sort of the whole area by the ear to sort of squeeze in the whole area and to shrink it a bit. And so right now I'm going to start using a chisel. All right, these are relatively new to Blacksmith 3D. And so what they do is they act like a brush as far as they have this brush shape. They utilize the brush shape down here, which can be changed by clicking on it or dragging and dropping your own grayscale image into there, which defines the shape, which might be a little known fact. And so this is a standard bulge chisel. So as what happens is, as you draw over the surface, it's going to bulge out, or if you hold the Alt key, as you just saw right there, let's go back, see that? What happened is with the Alt key, it reverses the direction of the bulge and makes it a dent, right? And so it dented in there by holding the Alt. Okay, so let's continue. And we notice down here there's a nag about saving your work. I do actually save periodically in here, and you don't quite see it because the screen capture program does not capture dialog boxes. See how smooth and fluid all this is? And this, most other screen capture programs are being a little chunky when it comes to doing capturing 3D graphics. This one is great for 3D graphics. It's called Fraps, but it doesn't capture anything else. So when it comes to dragging and dropping files and open file dialog boxes and so on and so forth, you'll just have to take my word for it as I describe what's happening. Okay, so I'm using this chisel and I'm sort of fleshing out some shape here, right? So I'm bringing out some cheekbones, I brought out his chin a bit, so on and so forth. And generally you want to keep the strength of that tool, of these tools low. It depends on which one. With the bulge, you generally see you've got the strength at 10% because you want to slowly build it up. If it's too strong, it's just going to come bulging out really quick and it's going to be too hard to control. So low strength for bulge, okay? Repeat after me, bulge, low strength, okay? And here we are. And so I'm just refining some of this detail a bit, some of these cheekbones. And also notice the post-smooth. This is especially good when you're fleshing out general shape because as you pull out a whole large chunk of vertices, polygons, however you want to look at it, it'll smooth them at the same time. So you're getting this nice clay-like effect, okay? And here I'm using this is the touch-up chisel, and I'm smudging. And smudging basically just moves the stuff in whatever direction you're going. So in that case, we're just moving the tip of that nose down. And but mind you, this is happening sort of in a two-dimensional plane. So when you look at this from the side, it's going to look a little flat, as you'll see later. And then we'll spend a little time sort of tweaking and bulging, trying to get that nose right. See, there we go. So so you can also smudge from the side and go out this way as well. I ended up spinning my wheels out here a little bit and going a little bit back and forth, but I ended up getting something like half decent. See there, just sort of bulging out. Doom, doom, doom. Okay, so I'm using this bulge tool a lot. You're going to see this a lot. Just sort of trying to work at some details. Now, going for the front. Yeah, that didn't look so good. I'm going to skip ahead. It's getting a little boring. Doing the same thing. I'm toggling between these tools, trying to get that nose shape. Aha, here we go, something interesting. Okay, this tool is absolute gold. Right? This is called the Contour Chisel. And what this does is, if depending on the topology of the model, it's pretty good, but it's not perfect. It's not magical. But what it does is, if you draw this line, you draw a contour and you keep going over it, right? Then it basically it pulls the surrounding vertices towards that line and helps you sort of flesh out a shape, a contour, which normally wasn't there. And it works better with the more polygons you have, more vertices. But also you have to be aware of this post-smooth, because too much post-smoothing can uncontour your contour. So you have to really tweak this a lot depending. If it's a lower res model, or if the area that you're working on doesn't have so many polygons, then you want this to be really low or even off. If it's higher, then you do a higher value, because there's a lot of polygons in here. So if you notice that this post-smooth being 50%, which is relatively high, is still working pretty well on getting this sort of these contour shapes just sort of flowing. And see, when I draw the line like this, it pulls it together. So essentially it's allowing you to draw contours on a surface. That's what it is. Okay. And so here I hit the O hotkey for the wireframe overlay. And so this is just so you can see what's happening. And sometimes it's helped to troubleshoot when this contour is not quite working right. You can see exactly what each vertex is doing, and you can realize why it's not. So see here, they're kind of bunching together a bit, but this post-smooth 20% is kind of sort of stopping it. It's limiting on how much. But here there's more polygons, so they're bunching together more. Here they're not so much. So again, you can only do so much. So that's why this O key is especially useful. It's for doing the wireframe overlay. And just as a minor note, if you do Shift O, it'll also show little ticks for vertices. So they can be handy for certain situations too. But normally just the regular wireframe is good enough. Those also can be accessed in the viewport display options. So anyway, I'm going here. I'm sort of trying to get some sort of character happening around the edges of the eyes. Again, this contour, I'm essentially just utilizing that contour brush. Okay, so we just sort of finished up tweaking that eye a little bit. Now we're going to continue on. What are we doing? I see. Aha, we're going to start changing the general shape of the eye, which we kind of just wasted a bit of time doing some those contours when they're just going to get lost with this smudging here. But anyway, what we do is we use the smudge touch-up chisel, and then we're just sort of pushing this bit up here, and just giving sort of a squinty look to his eyes. There we go. And see, just notice how with these chisel brushes, how you're essentially drawing on a 3D surface. You know, you're really think of it as you're using a finger, and you're pushing that clay up, or so on and so forth. And with the bulge, you're sort of pulling it out or pushing it in. So we try to make it as intuitive as possible. So okay, here we go. We notice going back to this nose doesn't quite look right. So what are we going to do with it here? We're just going to zoom in and just kind of work some contours again to sort of get some, it's kind of hard to explain some things because they're just artistic. So you're using the same tools, you're just trying to get something that looks cool, that looks the way you want it. That's what we're doing here. The nose was just not looking right. So we're working it. That's the thing when it comes to any kind of art, is that you can teach the science of how to use the tools and what the different options do and what situations they're helpful. But at the end of the day, you still got to make the thing look good, all right? You want to have something that people don't look at and want to vomit. So that's where you just got to spend some time and creativity and so on and so forth. And so that's what a lot of this is here. And unfortunately, as I mentioned at the end of this thing, some people may still want to vomit. It wasn't the greatest model ever. It wasn't the greatest morph, but like I said, there's a lot of good lessons to be learned what it did. Okay, let's go back with the ear. I want to show that again because this smudge tool, I just want to show just what, here we go. Just sort of how to do it. So we have the smudge, and because again, there's all these little nooks and crannies in there, what we did is we set culling to none. So if we smudge this whole ear over, it's getting every little thing, and it's just taking everything within this infinite cylinder that's going into the viewport, that whole bit, and just smudging it over a bit. That's what we're doing here. See, there we go. And just working the shape. And now from a side view, because often you'll spend a lot of time doing a particular morph from the front view. Everything looks amazing. You spend 2 hours. You go to the side, and it's like, what the heck? It's because everybody's got a profile. How many people in real life look good from the front and not from the side, or vice versa? So you have to go to the side and give that some attention as well. And so let me see what we're doing here. The chin, we decided that chin is just looking a little too simplistic there, so we're going to select not only just the chin, but the jawline as well. We want to get this whole bit. And we have we moved it a bit. Notice that the selection is not quite right on the upper lip, so we selected all that and then held the Alt key to remove the nose, the extra bit of nose that we got that we didn't want to select. And we're just going to bring that whole thing sort of forward, give him a real goonish look. There we go. And you notice the different display modes toggling. Again, the Shift Space hotkey shows you this. This is that hot selection view. It makes that hot selection always show up, so it's not flashing back and forth every time you use a selection tool over here. And so I'm just going to, oh yes, the Rotate tool. Sorry, well, I just see it basically use the Rotate tool here to sort of, to give, ooh, that was an interesting trick. I'm going to go back to this because I wanted to sort of, okay, squish the chin along this angle, right? So what I did is I had this hot selection and I rotated where are we going? I rotate the chin down first, right? Then I took the scale and then I use only the horizontal direction, and then clicking and dragging here, I pinch that chin inwards, and then I rotated it back when I was done. And there we go. So I got to essentially to scale it along this line by rotating it down and doing it and rotating back. I could have equivalently just rotate the viewport so that chin part was up or down, but this worked just as good. And again, this nose, I'm just really not happy with this nose, so no, so I'm going for the traditional workflow where I select something first and then I use a hammer, and I just use a general bulge here just to sort of pull the whole thing out, because it was just looking too flat and I was getting a little frustrated in how to get rid of that flatness. And this seemed to work well. And then I went to do smudge to sort of put some shape back into it. Anyway, let's not dwell on this nose too much. There we go. So, what else is interesting here? Oh, I decided to scale the whole nose here because I think wanted to elongate it to a certain degree. Now at this point, again, smart culling is going. Oh, culling's going to be set to none. We're going to recede that forehead a bit, give him a little more primitive look. And I tried here flattening, but that tool just wasn't quite appropriate for this case. So what it did is, that other trick I mentioned before about the, see, I rotate this, so this is like along the horizontal axis, and I scale vertically. So this is going to scale, this is going to pinch up and down here, and then when you go back to the normal view, that's exactly the way I wanted it. Good, good. Now, with the ear, just going to give it a little bit more flavor here as well. You notice that when I do the smart culling, if you click on this part and then you start smudging, it's not necessarily going to hit the stuff behind on the head, because smart culling has depth factors, so that initial point you click on has a lot to do with it. And okay, so here, what are we trying to emphasize? Okay, at this point, I'm going to create a new morph, and I'm going to call this one Smile. All right, so this way, by any deformation I do in that red box, let's go back. This is important. This is extremely important. Okay, this little red box, you'll see it in many different places. This is indicating this is the current thing, in this case, the current morph. All right, so any deformation you do, right, will affect this thing. And don't mistake in this yellow highlight as saying, okay, this is my current one. This is just the same sort of highlighting you'll get when you're multi-selecting files anywhere. Like that doesn't mean that's the current one, because I can hold the shift key and I can click on default morph and I can select both of them if I wanted to go and delete them or do something like that. But this red one, this is saying, no, this is the current morph. Anything you do as far as deformations are concerned will affect this one. So right now we're going to create a smile morph. And so let us zoom in over to the mouth. And we're going to do the old school workflow where we select something first and then we deform it. And I just did something here, and for the this is technically a mistake. I have culling set to none, or maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But basically, culling set to none, so I'm selecting all this so I can get those nooks and crannies. But at the same time, this selection is going to go right through the back of the head. Now let's see if I remembered that and erase that selection. Because this is a common mistake when you have that culling set to none. Yes, I did. See, I'm too smart for myself. When that's set to none, sometimes you'll forget and you'll do stuff over here and you'll start deforming, and then you'll look at the back of his head and it's all bent out of shape, and that's because you didn't really mind what was happening on the back. Mind you, there is multi-viewports, and what you can do is in the viewport section you can select different viewport configurations, and you can always kind of have a look at what's going on behind, or the space hotkey will toggle between this maximize viewport and 4 viewports. But generally, sometimes you want to maximize your screen real estate. You just often want to just use a single viewport. In the case of this video, I'm deliberately using a small window, so it makes for a better video, so the text is bigger. So if I was using 4 viewports, it would not be very functional. So again, what I did is I selected all that, and I'm kind of trying to I did some rotating, some moving to sort of get into place, and I got a lot of this down here. And sometimes you just got to smooth it out. It just you bunched it all up somehow, and you just take the smooth and start with sort of a empty canvas, if you will. So that's what I did there, and considering this guy is going to be cartoony, and we can always redo some of those contours with that contour chisel. So it'll be much easier than just trying to selectively work out all those problem areas that happened. So the lesson to be learned there is, if all else fails, smooth it out. So again, exactly what I was doing here is I took that contour chisel and I'm sort of reintroducing some of these curves. And the lower lip appears to have completely disappeared, so I'm trying to get a little something to show up here. And for the next little while, that lip is just, I think it's going to be a nightmare. It looked pretty weird for a while, and I think I got it quite reasonable by the end of it. So again, it's just the usual, this contour chisel. Again, I'm right here, smart culling is set to none, so this is technically a mistake at this point. But fortunately, the back of the head, there's not much going on, so we could, if we find out we did some deformations back there we didn't intend, you can always smooth it out. So watch out for that, because the best of us can make these mistakes. See, this is looking pretty weird as upper lip here, but I think in the end we just, oh, see, I paid attention to my own hint here, telling me, seriously, it's been 25 minutes since I saved my work, so I'm saving it now. I'm going to save project as. You're not going to see the dialog because this capture program does not pick it up, but it's saving. And the reason why I put this message as opposed to an actual auto save, I've had that in previous versions, but it basically introduces this big lag when you're not expecting or wanting it, because texture maps, for example, can use a lot of data, and no matter what you do, that's just going to take a little time to save that file. So the auto saving it's great, auto saving is amazing, but if you're going to have this unreasonable delay when you're not expecting it, that's not so good either. So I figured just a good red nagging message at the bottom would be sufficient. And if something happened and you lost your work, it's your own fault for not saving. So save your work, kids. And here we go. So what else is going on here? So yeah, that lip is not looking so bad. You know, on second thought, I'm looking at this model. It's not so horrible. I mean, it's not bad for a programmer. The lips are a little flat here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Bulge Chisel, I'm going to work those and give them some nice puckers, make them a little kissable. And here we go, and I notice here that strength is pretty low, but we generally like the low strength for the bulge, so that's okay. But sometimes you have a small brush and a weak strength. Not much might happen. So again, it depends on the resolution, how many polygons you're grabbing within that brush. When in doubt, hit that O hotkey and you'll bring the wireframe over. And then you can see exactly what's going on. You see, it's coming out nice and slow, and that's what we like. Nice and slow is the way to go when it comes to using this Bulge Chisel and really just sort of pulling out that detail. There we go, and I think I'm holding the Alt key here to push that down. All right, now we got that basic shape of the cartoony-ish character that we're creating. We're going to, I believe, work on getting some asymmetry into this character. So we turned off the symmetry, and we're going to create a new morph. So this way we have our perfectly symmetrical morph as like a foundation, and we have cap locks on here, by the way. We don't like that. And so we're going to do it as a separate morph which works on top. So you have this perfectly symmetrical morph, and this one's only purpose is going to be to throw off that symmetry. This can be very handy for a good number of reasons. One is that if for whatever reason you decide this is not going to be a morph, you're actually going to export this model, right? And yet you want to preserve that sort of symmetric property to it, so things like use symmetry will work in programs like Blacksmith 3D. Then you'll want to export that version of the model without the asymmetry morph, and so you have the shape and the look you want, but it's perfectly symmetric, and then you just throw down that asymmetry morph on top of it just to sort of to make his face a little crooked and put a little bit of character, a little wince in his eye, so on and so forth, and yet you still have the benefits of utilizing symmetry. So I'm just going to basically raise his eyebrow here like Dr. McCoy. He's going to be perplexed. He's going to be annoyed, or he's just going to be cheeky or something. Basically, I'm loosely following like a reference of a cartoon character from a popular movie this past year, and and I do emphasize loosely. All respect to the people who made that. Their work is much better than mine. Fortunately, I can probably program better than them, so that's okay. We all have our strengths, but I'm not doing bad in this. So here I'm using that smudge tool again. I'm bringing this eyebrow up, and it's going to be just a lot of working details. I don't think I'm going to show you anything new in here that I haven't done already. Just kind of work that a bit. And so checking out from different angles. The shiny gray, I've probably shown you this before. This is a good display mode for if you really want to see like the details of what you're morphing. So I believe it's the Alt F2 hotkey, if I'm not mistaken, that activates that. Otherwise, you can just go in the viewports display mode and choose shiny gray. And so these highlights, like I said, they'll pick out little imperfections or perfections, depending on how you look at them, in the model, when you might not normally see them because the shading doesn't really emphasize them that much. So again, I'm using the contour, getting a little something under the eye here. And I'm just going to skip ahead. Contour brushes are cool, but you've seen that. And I'm going to do the other eye a bit. I'm going to bring this one down. When one eye goes up, the other one goes down. If you ever try to raise one eyebrow, you kind of tend to push the other one down. It's sort of the way it goes. Probably a left brain, right brain thing. I'm not sure. Here we go. And again, working up the details, some smoothing out when all fails. Making a contour in there. See that little line? That's the contour brush. It's beautiful, it really is. Makes me proud. Okay. And here we are. Oh yes, I'm going to that big chin again. I'm going to rotate it a bit to the side, give it a little skew, so that can be accounted for either just a crooked head or the fact that he could just be slight, moving his jaw back and forth a bit. Maybe it's sort of part of his cheeky grin. And again, if there's any really high-end graphic artists out there watching this and like their stomach is turning, I apologize. Remember, I am a programmer first and a graphic artist well second, if not, well, there's probably a few other qualities I have in between programmer and graphic artist, but that's okay. Here we go. So again, I'm just working this brow area. So you get the general idea. So this particular morph, which is sitting on top of my general head shape, is the asymmetry morph. The idea is, of course, symmetry is boring. If everybody in real life was perfectly symmetric, you'd probably lose your mind. But here we are, working it out. And there's not much more to see here, so I'm just going to skip through and see what's going on. Oh yes, okay, I know. Now here we go. Now this is the cleanup phase. So we're going to those hidden internal face geometry things that we've locked away before, hidden away. We're going to bring those back. So here we go. See, I unchecked this layer, so now everything became visible. And this eyebrow thing, he's going to be a cartoon character. His eyebrows are probably going to be a solid color, so we don't need this at all. And as if you can see, I'm going to actually select the material because I have had people, let's just say, hating on me for some reason, telling me that the software is not working properly because this big gray strip is showing up on their character and they can't figure out why. Well, that big gray strip is there by design, and it's only gray because you're looking at the color channel, and it's actually, if you look here in the material, it has transparency set to 100. So when this is rendered in a rendering program or the quick render option, which I'll talk about later, you can get that by, I might as well talk about it now. Hit the AR key sometime. If you hit the R key and you have maps other than just color maps, if you have bump maps, displacement maps, transparency maps, it'll essentially do a preview render of all those in real time. So you'll see the bumps, you'll see the displacement, you'll see the transparency, and then you can actually paint over that when you're in that display mode, which is really cool. Again, there'll be another video which I'll really show you off that feature. But just because I brought it up, then you would see that eyebrow go away because its transparency is set to 100%. But in the meantime, it is not, because you're not in that special display mode. You're seeing what's there, and what is there is a big gaping piece of polygons over his forehead. So, I don't think gaping is the appropriate word, but that's okay. So this is just to show you what's happening. That is supposed to be transparent. Okay? So there I am emphasizing it's transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create yet another display group just for it. And I selected by the material because I want all the polygons by the material. I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to call that layer eyebrow. And I'm going to hide it, so I don't have to deal with it. I don't like it. I don't want it. Go away. And here we are. Now these other parts, see these the eyelashes, we're going to deal with these. My first instinct was not to deal with them, but I was like, hey, what the heck, let's deal with these. Let's show you guys what to do when these eyelashes no longer line up with the eyelids, I suppose. So we're going to first select by material, and I don't think this is quite appropriate because this is going to, what I want to do is I just want to isolate that lower eyelid at the moment. And when I selected by material, it selected both the top and the bottom, as you can see here, right? It's not what I want, so I'm going to do this manually. Each of these things are like separate pieces, so if I select by element and I click on them, right, I'm going to select everything that's connected, and because they're not connected to the rest of the model, they get isolated in this way. So I mentioned before that the Chisel Tools over here, right, these, I just inverted the selection here, but I realized I didn't have to. These will work either on everything if there's no selection, or just on the selection if there is one. It's a similar, let me pause. The same workflow as you'd expect from Photoshop, for example, where if you want to paint on something in Photoshop, if you didn't select anything, if you didn't use that marquee tool, and you start painting, you can paint anywhere. But the second you make a selection somewhere, you can only paint in that selected area, and that's often confusing sometimes because you might have this little tiny selection where you accidentally click somewhere, and then you're painting everywhere and nothing happens, and you get confused, and you're like, oh, there's this little selection somewhere. And so the workflow in here was designed to be the same. So it wasn't designed to be annoying, but it was designed to be, if nothing's selected, you can affect everything. If there is a selection, you can only affect what is selected. So in this case, we are going to use these chisel tools on only the selected area. So we're going to basically use the smudge, and we're going to push these polygons up here without worrying about destroying anything behind it. Right? There we go. I believe some other programs that might refer to these as stencils or alphas or something, I don't know. But in this case, it's just, it's the selected polygons are the ones you're affecting. And that also counts for soft selections. If some of this was red, where you hit the S key and it wasn't a hard selection that way, then it would, those would, how do you say, it would blend proportionally. The least selected areas would get affected less. Here we go. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for that top eyelash as well. So we've used that picker tool with element, and we selected all those individual parts. And now we're just going to use that smudge tool to sort of bring the shape of that eyelash to match that of the eyelid. Pretty simple. And there you go, you get the idea. We're going to do the same thing over on this side. Same thing, so let's just skip. So now those eyelashes will match up with the eye lids, and mind you, those eyelashes, just as I discussed, that eyebrow chunk was designed there to have the transparency map. Those eyelashes are designed to have transparency map as well, so they won't, if you take that into a rendering solution, you won't see these big chunky polygons for eyelashes. You'll see little thin beautiful eyelashes. So what I did here is now I selected the that internal part. Let's go back to that, that internal mouth geometry. Here we go. All right, because I unhid that layer, or I hid the head skin so I can get at this stuff. I use the marquee with hardness at 100% to make that 100% solid, and stuff is sort of connected to the inner mouth here too. So if you look at that, that's sort of connected. So at some point I hit the S key to sort of soften that transition a bit. And now I'm using the scale in the horizontal direction just to sort of to make those teeth wider, because I end up making that mouth wider and I want the teeth to sort of match it. And here we go, just taking a look again. And I'm probably going to want to pull those forward. So if I look from the side, I can see in there those teeth are too far back. So from the side, I'm going to pull that out. And what's happening? Yes, I noticed the strength of the move hammer was left behind at 20%, and the hammers generally work best at 100%. It's only if you want to do really subtle things where you want to decrease those strength. And if we notice here, this is interesting, I don't do this very often. I usually, if I need to move something from, I go into the plane. So if I want to move something forward and back, I'll go to the left plane and then move it to the left, like this way. But I want to pull this teeth in or out just very subtly. So I chose the depth direction of move, and sometimes it's not so intuitive. Let me see let's go back to it. Here we go, depth. So that means as I click and drag in the viewport, it's going to go either in or out. And because it's straight out, you can only really tell based on how it's interacting with these other things. So as you can see, it's kind of over here, it's poking through a bit. And then over here, I just pushed it back just far enough. And there's some issues here with these polygons kind of sort of gaping down. You'd probably want to get in there and push this stuff up, because you want to see teeth. You don't want to see flabby pieces of skin. But I'm not going to spend that much time on it. Just sort of demonstrating basic principles here. And I think at this point, I'm just pointing that out, and I was about to do it, but I changed my mind. So, like I said, depending on what kind of morphs you're doing and the complexity, some could be a few minutes and some could be a few hours. It really depends on the sort of level of detail and how many little issues you have and how many little crevices that you have to watch out for. So this concludes our morphing tutorial. Let's recap what we've learned. We've learned the two different distinct workflows when it comes to dealing with morph targets. One is the select/hammer workflow, where you select a portion of the model, maybe hit the S key to soften it up a bit, and then use the hammer to deform that whole selected area. And then with the second workflow is the new chisels, which act like brushes, where you glide the cursor along the surface of the model and you affect it like that. We have the Bulge Chisel, which is kind of intuitive, where it bulges in if you hold the Alt key, out by default. Most of these things, if you hold the Alt key, it does the opposite, so look out for that. The Contour Chisel allowed you to sort of get all these little nooks and crannies and grooves just by drawing the lines on the surface and then watching that surface conform. Watch out for that post-smooth parameter, because too much post-smoothing will uncontour your contours. And we also learned that how to create a few display group layers in order to sort of organize our project and to hide away some of that that interface geometry, and how some models have things like these second layers which are designed to have transparency maps. In this case it was the brow, and which can sometimes be problematic, and in this case we didn't need it, so we just got rid of it. So yes, please stay tuned. Much more videos to come. I'll be putting them out on a regular basis. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified and all that. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. And if you have any suggestions for future tutorials, that'd be great too. Like I said, I'm going to be cranking them out. So anyway, stay tuned, and I'll see you guys next time.